At exactly 5:17 a.m. on November 12, 2025, the quiet waters of the Caribbean suddenly exploded with gunfire. A Venezuelan patrol boat, Guayquerí-class vessel Guaycaipuro, made a decision that would change everything in seconds. Without warning, its Otio Malera 76mm naval cannon opened fire toward the USS Gravely, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer conducting routine counter-narcotics patrols in international waters. The cannon's shells tore through the darkness of the early morning, streaking across roughly 1,200 meters of open sea. It took only 18 seconds for the Venezuelan crew to realize something had gone terribly wrong. This wasn't a spontaneous incident. It was the final step of a plan that had been quietly developing for weeks, a calculated gamble by Venezuelan naval commanders. Their idea was simple: use the Caribbean's maze of rocky islands, narrow passages, and unpredictable currents to stage a surprise encounter against American patrol ships and disappear before a response could arrive. Two critical factors ruined that plan. High above the region, a P-8A Poseidon surveillance aircraft was already watching from 30,000 feet. And aboard the USS Gravely, the Aegis combat system was quietly processing every movement with machine-level precision. The area where this encounter unfolded is more than just tropical water and vacation beaches. It is one of the most important corridors in the global narcotics trade. Nearly 90% of cocaine entering the United States moves through these shipping routes, more than 1,000 tons each year. Venezuela understood the geography well. Their strategy depended on using islands as cover and fast currents to confuse radar signatures. It was clever, but it wasn't sophisticated enough. On paper, the situation seemed challenging for the American side. Venezuelan forces knew the local waters. They could hide behind island chains, deploy drones quickly, and use coastal radar coverage to their advantage. Yet the opening move in this confrontation didn't come from a warship at all. It came from a surveillance aircraft that had been orbiting quietly over the horizon. In modern naval operations, information often arrives before force. The P-8A Poseidon, built on the airframe of a Boeing 737, exists for one core purpose: mastering the physics of seeing the ocean from above. Its primary tool is the AN/APY-10 multi-mission radar mounted beneath the aircraft's nose. This system works less like a traditional radar sweep and more like a high-resolution imaging scanner. Using synthetic aperture radar, the aircraft captures thousands of radar snapshots every second while flying. Onboard computers combine those snapshots into images detailed enough to distinguish the difference between vessels hundreds of miles away. From its position in the sky, the Poseidon could identify a 2,500-ton patrol ship, a commercial cargo vessel, or a small fishing boat with remarkable accuracy. Inside the aircraft, sensor operators analyzed the radar picture in real time. When a contact appeared suspicious, they tagged it. The information, position, speed, course, and radar imagery was instantly transmitted using Link 16, a secure military data network designed to share tactical information between aircraft, ships, and command centers. Within seconds, that data traveled from the aircraft through satellite relays and directly into the Combat Information Center aboard the USS Gravely. The system required no voice call and no manual report. The contact appeared automatically on the destroyer's Aegis display, already labeled with the data gathered by the aircraft. By the time the Venezuelan crew was preparing for their maneuver, their ship had already been tracked, classified, and monitored, and they had no idea. The Poseidon, however, had its own weakness. Despite its powerful sensors, it was still essentially a modified airliner, large, loud, and far from stealthy. For that reason, it operated outside the range of Venezuelan coastal air defenses. From that safe distance, it circled quietly, watching events unfold below. At precisely 5:17 a.m., the Venezuelan captain gave the order. Fuego! The cannon roared. Their entire strategy depended on getting close enough that advanced American technology would have little time to react. The Otio Malera 76mm cannon was designed for rapid-fire engagement. It could launch up to 100 explosive shells per minute, a storm of metal intended to tear apart radar systems, communication antennas, and exposed equipment on an enemy ship. The plan was straightforward: strike fast, create chaos, and disappear into the island passages before a larger warship could respond. But the Venezuelan officers had built their plan on one critical assumption: that their approach had gone unnoticed. They believed they were the hunters. In reality, they had already walked into a trap. Inside the Gravely's Combat Information Center, the response was calm and methodical. No shouting, no panic, just procedure. The first layer of defense wasn't a weapon at all. It was deception. The destroyer activated its AN/SLQ-32 electronic warfare system, sometimes nicknamed Sidekick. This system specializes in confusing enemy sensors and communications. The ship shifted into emissions control, reducing its own radar signals and minimizing electronic signatures. For hostile sensors, the destroyer's massive 9,000-ton profile began to resemble something much smaller, almost like a civilian vessel. Then the electronic warfare suite began projecting false radar echoes into the surrounding airspace. Multiple phantom ships appeared on enemy radar screens, spreading across the ocean. To the Venezuelan gunners, the tactical picture suddenly looked chaotic. While they attempted to aim at these ghost targets, the Gravely prepared its next layer of defense. The destroyer's radar tracked the incoming shells and calculated their trajectories almost instantly. To counter them, the ship launched RIM-162 Evolved Sea Sparrow missiles, known as ESSM. These interceptors do not simply chase incoming projectiles. Instead, the system calculates the exact point in space where the incoming object will be moments later. The missile races toward that location. In its final seconds, the onboard seeker activates, adjusting its flight path with violent maneuvering forces, sometimes up to 50 times the force of gravity. Those missiles intercepted the incoming fire with cold precision. The Venezuelan crew believed they were fighting a close-range duel. But technologically, the two sides weren't even operating in the same arena. Just as the Gravely's crew neutralized the initial barrage, the situation shifted again. Venezuela deployed its final surprise. From a hidden coastal site, a Borisovlebsk-2 electronic warfare system, originally designed in Russia, suddenly activated. Unlike traditional weapons, it didn't launch missiles or fire shells. Instead, it attacked the invisible battlefield of signals and electronics. Instead, the system released a powerful, localized GPS jamming field. Within seconds, the precision-guided environment the U.S. Navy normally relies on became uncertain and distorted. At the same moment, radar operators on the USS Gravely detected a new threat closing fast. It wasn't a single contact, it was dozens. A swarm of small drones, likely commercial models modified to carry small explosive payloads, lifted off from nearby islands and rushed toward the destroyer. This was classic swarm tactics, but with a clever twist. The drones themselves weren't the real weapon. They were the distraction. Their job was to force the destroyer to activate its defensive systems, its close-in cannons and short-range interceptors, against cheap, expendable targets. While the ship focused on those drones, the real threat would be the electronic warfare system disrupting navigation and targeting signals. On the tactical display inside the Combat Information Center, a countdown appeared, 90 seconds. That was the estimated time until the drone swarm reached the ship, while GPS-dependent systems were still under interference. From the Venezuelan perspective, the trap looked perfect. Electronic jamming combined with a drone swarm is a classic anti-access strategy designed to overwhelm sophisticated technology with confusion and numbers. But their plan relied on one assumption. They believed the battle was limited to what they could see on the horizon. The American response came from somewhere they couldn't reach. On Venezuelan radar screens, the USS Gravely appeared to be pulling away. It looked like a retreat. That was the bait. Encouraged by the movement, the Venezuelan patrol boat and its drone controllers pushed forward, moving farther from the protective range of their coastal electronic systems. And that's when the situation changed. Inside the Combat Information Center, a new command was issued. Not anti-drone weapons, Standard Missile 2 interceptors. The SM-2 is the long-range weapon of the Aegis system. While short-range missiles like the ESSM handle nearby threats, the SM-2 is designed for targets far beyond the horizon. Unlike many modern weapons, the SM-2 doesn't depend entirely on GPS. It uses inertial guidance, internal gyroscopes, and accelerometers that track its movement through space independently. During most of its flight, the missile navigates using this internal system while receiving occasional course updates from the ship's powerful radar. Only during the final moments does the missile activate its own radar seeker to lock onto the target. It was exactly the kind of weapon built to operate in environments where electronic interference exists. A voice echoed through the combat center. "False retreat complete. Come about. Engage targets." The confrontation instantly shifted from a close-range encounter to long-range engagement. On the tactical display, the SM-2 interceptors streaked across the digital map. Their launch timing had been carefully calculated. This technique is called time-on-target coordination, where weapons fired at different moments arrive simultaneously. It's the naval version of a multi-angle checkmate. A final countdown appeared on the screen. 10, 9, 8. This was the moment where radar data, physics, and training merged into action. The first SM-2 wasn't aimed at the waterline of the Venezuelan patrol boat. Instead, its target was a small section of the ship's superstructure containing the main fire control radar. The missile detonated just meters above the vessel. Its fragmentation warhead scattered thousands of high-velocity tungsten fragments, shredding radar equipment and communication antennas. The ship was not immediately sunk, but it was effectively blinded. This approach follows the doctrine of effects-based targeting. The goal is not always to destroy a ship outright, but to remove its ability to fight. For a moment, the engagement could still have ended there. However, imagery from the P-8 surveillance aircraft showed that another system aboard the patrol boat remained operational. A second strike was authorized. This one targeted the vessel's engine compartment. Seconds later, the missile struck. The impact punched through the hull before detonating inside the machinery spaces. The explosion tore through the engine room, disabling the ship's propulsion and structural integrity. The patrol vessel was fatally damaged. Even then, the danger wasn't completely over. Some drones from the original swarm continued flying toward the destroyer. With their operators gone, they followed their last programmed course. This is exactly the scenario the Phalanx close-in weapon system was built to handle. Often nicknamed R2D2 with a Gatling gun, the system operates almost entirely on its own. Its radar detected the incoming drones, classified them as immediate threats, and began firing automatically. The distinctive buzz of the 20mm Vulcan cannon filled the air as it fired thousands of tungsten rounds per minute. Each burst created a dense wall of metal. One by one, the drones disappeared before reaching the ship. By 6:45 a.m., the fight was over. The Caribbean sunrise revealed calm water again. The outcome of the encounter was not only measured in the sinking patrol vessel, the larger impact unfolded through logistics, intelligence, and strategy. Removing a key patrol ship disrupted an important link in regional smuggling routes. For a time, trafficking operations slowed dramatically. The psychological effect was also significant. Venezuelan commanders had relied on local geography and electronic warfare to gain an advantage. Instead, their defenses had been dismantled quickly and decisively. The financial comparison was stark. Venezuela lost a patrol vessel valued around $200 million, several coastal radar installations, and dozens of personnel. The United States expended 4 SM-2 missiles, several ESSM interceptors, and ammunition from the Phalanx system, a total estimated cost of roughly $9 million. In strategic terms, the message across the Caribbean was unmistakable. Within days, Washington issued a warning urging Venezuelan naval forces to halt aggressive patrols in the region. The broader lesson from the encounter was clear. In modern naval operations, the decisive factor is rarely who fires first. It is who detects first, who processes information faster, and who can respond with precise force from distances the opponent cannot easily counter. Technology, data networks, and situational awareness now shape the battlefield long before the first shot is fired. The Caribbean encounter demonstrated how quickly a local confrontation can evolve when those systems come into play. If you found this breakdown interesting, consider subscribing and sharing the video. Stories like this show how modern military operations unfold far from headlines, and how decisions made in seconds can reshape events across an entire region.